Today's News of Taiwan broadcast, July 30th, 2026.
This is the brief on today's top economic and regional news. Today's stories are literally defined by shockwaves, from massive financial sell-offs to actual seismic events and even political tremors. First, the economic shockwaves. Taiwan's stock market took a historic plunge, dropping 1,564 points and temporarily losing that huge 40,000-point threshold. This domestic crash is tied to a broader global sell-off, fueled by anxiety over AI investments and Middle East tensions. Think of this tech sell-off kind of like a balloon losing air. So are investors just safely deleveraging, reducing risk to release pressure, or is the whole market going to pop? Second, these financial tremors mirror literal seismic shockwaves. A devastating 7.1 magnitude earthquake struck Kumamoto, Japan. But the real tragedy isn't just the quake, it's the deadly secondary disasters. An Aeon Mall gas explosion left 3 dead, and a paper factory collapse killed 5. Plus, a blistering 35 degrees Celsius heat wave is seriously complicating rescue efforts. It makes you wonder if secondary industrial hazards like gas lines and complex factories are causing the most harm. Are our safety protocols targeting the wrong threats? Finally, we have the political fallout of a past earthquake. Taiwan's Hualien County Social Affairs Department was suddenly raided over the mishandling of 2.78 billion new Taiwan dollars, a massive charity fund from a 2018 quake. The director was released on a $400,000 bail, and the local government is absolutely blasting the investigation's timing right before an election. So is this a genuine pursuit of delayed justice, or is the legal system just being weaponized for election season? Whether we're looking at global markets, disaster zones, or local politics, today is absolutely all about bracing for the aftershocks.
Welcome to today's Headlines Quick Breakdown. We've got a seriously intense news cycle to unpack, so let's dive in. We're starting with some urgent, devastating news. A massive 7.1 magnitude earthquake just struck Kumamoto, Japan. The immediate fallout is massive. An Aeon Mall gas explosion happened, and Taiwan's TSMC completely halted local plant construction. Tragically, the human cost is heavy. Authorities have confirmed 12 dead, with dozens more injured or missing. Experts blame this immense destruction on the Hinagai Fault, an 80-kilometer active fault line shifting right beneath the region. Globally, escalating conflicts in the Middle East, like strikes on U.S. bases, are sparking some serious economic anxiety today. And that global fear, it totally cratered the Taiwan stock market, triggering a brutal 1,564-point drop. Tech heavyweights took a massive beating. TSMC dropped 80 NTD, while JKO and memory chips hit consecutive limit downs. Terrified investors scrambled to deleverage, causing a brutal 38.5 billion NTD plunge in margin debt across the board. Shifting gears to domestic justice, there's a huge wave of high-profile controversies and legal drama unfolding right now. Specifically, we're tracking investigations into Hualien official Chen Zhafu and former trade representative Yang Zhenni. Authorities are questioning $2.78 billion in Hualien quake funds. The county government, however, claims the timing is politically motivated. Meanwhile, the control yuan impeached Yang Zhenni over extreme workplace bullying and deliberately isolating her employees. In another legal shocker, JKO Payment founder Hu Yi-chia was just handed a heavy 7-year prison sentence. His breach of trust conviction, plus flipping off a prosecutor in court, earned him a 100 million NTD fine. Looking at local economics, let's compare Taiwan's actual tourism numbers against the government's 10 million visitor goal. Right now, there's a massive 6.36 million deficit between incoming tourists and folks traveling outward. Since so many are traveling, here are some absolutely crucial survival tips if you're visiting Japan right now. Listen, if a quake hits, stay inside your hotel room. Blindly rushing into the hallways is extremely dangerous. If you're shopping, back away from shelves and always carry loose change in case digital payments go down. So, from global crises to local shocks, how will all this shape the rest of your week? Stay curious.
Today we are looking at a comprehensive rundown for a morning news broadcast covering everything from major geopolitical shifts and a magnitude 7.1 earthquake in Kumamoto to local political scandals. It makes a strong case for breadth, but grouping related geopolitical and economic stories together creates a much stronger narrative impact than scattering them throughout the broadcast.
Yeah, completely agree. The current flow really disjoints these major, interconnected economic and global events.
It forces the audience to just constantly reset their context.
Right, exactly, which is exhausting for a morning show. I mean, for instance, early on, we get this massive, historic news about the Taiwan stock market crash.
Oh, yeah, dropping what, like 1564 points?
Yeah, falling right below 40,000, it's a huge deal. But then, the overarching macroeconomic analysis from the National Development Council, the stuff about the AI boom versus global uncertainties, that doesn't come up until way later. And the U.S. Federal Reserve holding rates steady is also just sort of floating out there.
With those 3 dissenting votes, yeah.
And then you have the Middle East proxy wars, like Iran attacking U.S. bases in Jordan, resulting in the retaliation in Iraq.
Right.
All of that is awkwardly scattered much later in the script, and they're separated by completely unrelated local crime stories.
It honestly feels like handing the audience puzzle pieces one by one over an hour, rather than just showing them the picture on the box first.
That is a great way to put it.
You know, so they actually understand how the global and domestic markets interlock. Otherwise, they're just holding a bunch of random cardboard pieces.
Exactly. So to fix that, you'd want to restructure the rundown to create a dedicated, uninterrupted macroeconomy and global markets.
Right, a specific segment.
Yeah, one that connects the dots between the domestic market anxiety and the international catalysts.
So as a concrete example, we should move the segment about the Fed holding rates and those Middle East supply chain threats, like the Houthis taxing the Red Sea, right next to the Taiwan stock crash.
Absolutely, because then it's a single cohesive narrative. And furthermore, we can use that devastating 7.1 Kumamoto earthquake as a bridge.
Oh, interesting. How would that work?
While you transition from the physical disaster like the Aeon Mall gas explosion and the paper mill collapse where the workers were trapped directly into the pause of TSMC's Kumamoto Plant 2 construction.
Oh, wow. Yeah, because that naturally leads into the global semiconductor supply chain anxieties.
Exactly. Which then ties directly into the stock market sell-off. It's a seamless flow.
Calibrating the emotional weight and time allocation between severe institutional crises and local disturbances prevents tonal whiplash for the audience.
Yes, because once you group all those macroeconomic and major global stories together, it exposes a whole new challenge.
The remaining local and institutional stories, right?
Yeah, how they interact tonally. Right now, the script abruptly shifts between deeply serious institutional issues and highly sensationalized isolated local crimes.
Without any appropriate pacing.
Or tonal buffering at all.
I mean, moving directly from the solemn impeachment of former Trade Representative Yang Zhenni for severe workplace bullying.
Right, a major systemic issue.
Or the Hualien County Social Affairs Director, Chen Jiafu, being investigated for the 2018 earthquake donation misuse. That was like 2.78 billion NTD.
A massive betrayal of public trust.
And then moving from that straight into the Sanxia random hammer attack, or the Luzhou cross-dressing stalker. It creates a really jarring viewing experience.
It really undermines the gravitas of the hard news. You can't just bounce from institutional corruption to a local stalker without the anchor sounding a bit manic.
But wait, let me push back gently on that for a second.
Sure, go ahead.
Is it possible the writer interspersed these sensational local stories intentionally? Like to provide pacing breaks and prevent viewer fatigue from just too much heavy political and economic news?
I mean, yeah, I totally see that intent. You don't want the audience to just drown in dense institutional news for an hour.
Right, it gets heavy.
It does. But the execution still needs thematic buffering. The suggestion here is to group the local crime and societal anomalies into a distinct, fast-paced Society Watch or Local Briefs segment.
Ah, okay. With a unified, measured tone.
Exactly. Rather than interspersing them directly between major national scandals or international tragedies.
So, for example, we'd bundle the Sanxia hammer attack, the Lutro stalker, the Taichung fugitive car crash, and that wild military hazing incident.
Oh yeah, where the female sergeant forced a soldier to eat spiders?
Yeah, you put all of that into a single, cohesive, rapid-fire block.
Which completely prevents those jarring transitions. Like in the current draft, it jumps from the sentencing of JKO Payment founder Hu Yi-chia.
The guy who flipped off a prosecutor in court, right?
Yeah, jumping straight from that into a petty dispute over Fubon Guardian's Cheerlight merchandise sales at the Taipei Dome.
Right. The stakes are just so wildly different.
They really are.
So, okay, Connecting isolated international curiosities to broader domestic consumer trends elevates a standard news item into actionable intelligence for the audience.
Yes, because once we've segregated the heavy economic news and the sensational local crime into their own blocks, we have room to elevate the lighter international features at the end of the broadcast.
So they carry more weight.
Exactly. Take the segment on the global matcha shortage.
Right. Detailing how New York's matcha latte craze is causing a 70% price spike for Uji matcha in Japan.
It's currently presented merely as a quirky overseas feature. It totally misses a crucial opportunity to establish a direct link to the local Taiwanese consumer.
Leaving the viewer asking, so what?
Exactly. Why do I care about New York and Japan? So the suggestion is to expand the focus of these international human interest stories slightly.
Just to explicitly state how these global shifts impact the local Taiwanese market.
Right. Thereby increasing viewer investment.
So concretely, you'd add a brief concluding thought to the matcha segment, mentioning how this specific 70% price hike in Japan will likely affect Taiwanese bubble tea shops, bakeries, or just everyday consumers.
Consumers who rely heavily on Japanese matcha imports, frame it as a relatable, everyday supply chain ripple effect.
Which is actually great, because it beautifully echoes the heavier TSMC semiconductor supply chain story from earlier in the broadcast.
It ties the whole thing together.
But let me ask you this. Does focusing too much on the local economic impact ruin the escapist, sort of fun charm of an international human interest story?
That's a fair question.
Or does it actually make the audience care more?
I'd argue it definitely makes them care more. Escapism is fine, but actionable intelligence is what keeps a viewer tuning in every morning. If they know this fun overseas story means their morning latte is going to cost $10 more next week, they are fully invested.
Yeah, you're right. It grounds it in their reality.
Exactly.
Well, to recap our May takeaways for this Critique First, grouping macroeconomic and geopolitical news shows, cause and effect.
Crucial for flow.
Second, creating a dedicated Society Watch block prevents that tonal whiplash between institutional scandals and local crime.
Right.
And third, tying quirky international trends back to local consumer impacts answers that so what question.
Absolutely. And I'd warmly invite the listener to implement these structural edits and submit the revised rundown back to the critique for further exploration.
We'd love to see it. Thanks for joining us for the critique, and we'll catch you next time.